What's up, guys? Modern Craftsman Monday. This week we have Clint Watson from King Tile Canada, aka Tile Freak.
Tile Freak.
We talk a little bit about branding, whether or not you need a t-shirt or you don't need a t-shirt. We talk about tile. Actually, just like our last week's episode, we talk about the recession. This time we're talking about 2008 and how he up and moved. And, I mean, moved to an area he didn't have anything.
Zero network.
But the crazy thing is, he actually bid on Drake's house the first year he was in his new spot.
You have to listen to see if he got it.
What's life like up in Toronto right now with COVID?
You know what? It's actually, for like the way our business was headed anyway, I was kind of slowing things down and dropped a couple of employees so we could stay more efficient. And it just happened to work out pretty nicely for us with the schedule. And we work with some really good builders that have a lot of rules and implemented stuff right away. So we got lucky. We got really fortunate that we could stay working and still be within, the letter of the law, that sort of thing. And plus my daughter was born a week ago. So I had to go into
congratulations.
Anyway, I was planning on going on, taking a week off anyway. So kind of all just fell together at the right time.
This must be your first.
It's our third.
Third?
Yeah, no, he wouldn't be on the podcast if it
well,
was his first.
No, seriously.
I wouldn't. I mean, if I knew my wife was pregnant with my second or third, I would be like, no, I don't know when that baby's coming, so I'm not scheduling anything around that month. So I don't know. Kudos to you. Congrats.
Yeah, I tried to work it out. Well,
it worked out.
It's all luck with schedule, right? Like you never really know, but it worked out.
Do you have sons, daughters? Obviously, one daughter.
What's that?
You have sons, daughters. What's the spread?
Oh, so all girls, 3 girls.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
You going for 3, Tyler?
No, but if I had
Seriously.
a third, I would want another girl.
Yeah.
I'd jump off a building.
Meg wants another girl. Why? You don't
Sorry,
want girls
John.
or not more kids?
Not more kids.
Oh.
No more kids. That's a very intense.
No.
That's a hard no.
He's like, I got an
No, my
office
wife
and
and
an
I completely
F-100 to
agree.
finish.
No, it just, dude, I mean, we always talk about the market and how crazy it is here and how expensive stuff is, but that also is a cost. Like kids, sports, camps, all that, and it's just like to give them.
Tell me you know the math on having another kid.
Oh, no, I don't. It's just a no between the two of us. It's awesome. We go to like dinners and stuff or parties back in the day. God, it sounds so weird. And someone's like, you gonna have a third? And both of us are like, nope. Like immediately. Like we find like nothing's here. There's like no kid stuff. And then like that happened in the town. Like there's different age groups you hang out with for each kid. Like the parents of like my 12-year-old and parents of my 9-year-old. And one of the 9-year-old parents slipped up and they have number 4 coming. Well, they had their 4th. And it like puts an absolute like shock and awe across the entire network of people in your community. They're like, what happened? I screwed up. And it's like, oh no, that could be me. And we all freak out. I made my appointment to get snipped.
Clint, you said that with the direction your business was taking, I think that's an interesting comment. Dig into that.
Yeah. So I had a partner for a couple of years, and we decided to go in 2 completely different directions. He was more happy to do, more of a quantity of work and kind of take less margins. And where I wanted to look into doing a lot more of extreme custom, very technical, exceptional work where, we can plan it out. We can book up 2 or 3 years. So a lot of
That's
the commercial
amazing.
stuff and a lot of the, the residential, the track homes, as I like to call them. I never really found you can do that. It's always like month to month. So.
But I also find with the track home, you're just a number at that point.
Yeah.
It's not about really the quality. They can deal with so much of a quality. There's a bigger range. But really it's about convenience, making sure you hit a schedule and the numbers.
Yeah, and you're good, and it again speaks to a time like this. The builders that we work with are happy. You know, we know we're getting that phone call from them. This is the time when you really get exposed in those track homes where it's like you're just a number, like you said, and you get these builders that are like, hey, they're $5,000 cheaper, they're $10,000 cheaper. That's the way we're going. And in a market like this now, almost everybody's cheaper, right? Like they're in a couple of months anyway, it'll be that way, I think.
Yeah, there's no loyalty.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the 2 to 3 year plan. Like that's so far out.
That's a dream.
I know. I you know, someone asked what you want to do. I want to be booked out for 2 years, 3 years of building. And it's like, I guess one part of my brain wants to know, how do you make someone wait that long? And I guess the initial question would be they're going to wait for the value in what you do. But how are people even planning that far out for something like tile?
It's crazy. Like when I came from California, and obviously I went through 2008. So that began that goal of like, I want booked out schedules, because, you know, everything collapsed at that point. I lost a big granite shop. I lost a big house. Like everybody kind of just fell apart where I was. And so I always said after that was my number one goal, is I want to book out. I want to have a core group of guys, and I want them to never have to worry about work. And when I got here, it would surprise me. Landscapers were actually booking out 2, 3, 4, 5 years, getting deposits for jobs that are like four years away. So it just blew my mind. So I thought, in Toronto, they're building 20,000, 25,000 square foot homes, and they take exceptional amounts of planning. So if you can get into that neighborhood, like Drake's house, we bid on Drake's house. I didn't get it, but that house in itself took like 4 years to build.
Wow.
So some of the selections are going to change as you go, especially because styles and all that stuff changes. But I really made a point, like, I want to be in the front of that market. That's where I want to be, because it's so much security.
Wait, why didn't you get Drake's house? Do you know?
I don't know. Part of what I try to do is get feedback on all the estimates we do, because I like to have a high close rate.
Absolutely.
And I don't like to waste time reading plans, right? Because that's probably for me, it's the least fun part of this job. So I don't know. I didn't get a lot of feedback from them. I think it was, we take 3 bids, but we already know who we're going to go with.
Yeah.
Situation, which is fine. I'm okay, because I need the practice. I need that. Like I said, I've been here for 5 years. I don't expect to be known as well in this area as say somewhere like Monterey, California, where I'm from. So
did you know the builder that had that project?
I want to know what the tile number was on that job.
I'll put it this way. There was a $50,000 black granite bathtub in the house.
That's it?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it was not bad.
Yeah, it's next budget.
I have a brown one. It was 40. That blows my mind that people want that. I mean, that's cool, but what is the purpose of that? I mean, I get it to a certain extent, but it's like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, that Drake didn't pick that out.
No.
It was, he is working with probably a world-class designer and or architect that is known for these elaborate spaces and elaborate homes, that it's driven by that.
Yeah.
So when
He's
they have
probably
the
so pissed right now. The economy tanking. He's like,
he's listening to
I
the
should have went
podcast.
for the.
He's like, they're talking about my tub.
Should have went for the 30,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how did you even get? So I think John asked the question. Did you know the builder?
No, I didn't know the builder. I have so when I went to Las Vegas and Lake Tahoe and Monterey when I first started my career. So when I was 19 years old, I went right after my contractor's license in California. I didn't have the years yet. I went to Nevada. I ended up acquiring the years over the next year, amount of time I needed for that license. And so when I was there, I just called every dust control sign that had a contractor's phone number on it. So I essentially did the same thing. I made a list of all the Toronto contractors, and it can be an enormous waste of time. Like 90 out of 100 that you call are like one-man shops. They're like handyman, or they do all their own work, that sort of thing. But the 10 that you get a hold of, once in a while you'll get like a secretary, and they actually have like a big office, and you're like, oh shit, like that's the one I want. So so you followed up with an email. Like, I don't know, sales is it was really important to me. I read a lot of sales books, and I think pounding the pavement constantly, looking for new builders, and then as you develop those relationships, then you can kind of weed out and stop pricing or price yourself out of some jobs like that. So that's how I got that. I actually did that estimate I think it was about 4 years ago. I was only here for about a year at that time.
I really want to see that.
The estimate or the house?
Yeah, the estimate.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too, because the designer's name is Ferris Rafuli, and I watched a lot of his videos that came out of the house, and every time anybody was doing anything in the house, they had his jacket on, and like his hard hat, his jacket, like it was all labeled. It was really protected as far as his name goes. His name was the only name that you saw on there. So it was interesting. It was interesting to see that unfold. And I'm not going to say that I was happy that it didn't go my way, but I think it probably might have been a hard learning lesson for me, and really early in my Toronto career.
So did you grow up in California?
Yeah.
Where is Monterey?
Monterey is about an hour plus south of San Francisco.
So then when you went to Tahoe, were you in Nevada or California?
Both. So we did a lot of work like Truckee area and all the way down to South Shore and North Shore.
I
What was
can't
that
tell
like working
if Tyler's
there?
trying to check his facts.
No, I'd like.
Do you know where it is?
No, I'm curious. Tahoe's a really neat area, but what's it like to work there?
I loved it. There's a lot of cabins, a lot of slate work, a lot of big time money there. But I don't think that it was like Toronto in the sense, or the East, I should say the East End of North America. It seems to be a little more edgy with design. So when you're out there, it's more about your travertines and your marbles and your slate and cabin feels, that sort of thing, which is nice. I like that. It's what I grew up with. But when you come here, it's like big porcelain slabs, concrete look tile, exterior cladding, just a lot of unique and modern type of stuff here.
Nick or John, have you guys been to Tahoe?
No.
We should go.
Okay.
Whenever.
We should book it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like $17 to get. No, it's 17.
Tahoe's amazing. There's actually a kid, Clint Pheasant, who's out there in Reno, Tahoe area. Really good tile setter.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tahoe. When we got married, we kind of road tripped up from San Francisco to Seattle, and we were in Tahoe. I guess it was like mid to late October, and it was so nice. No one was there, but it was a really cool area. It was dead though.
Yeah. You go to like Harrah's and all the like the local casinos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that area of California. But I feel like it's one of those areas where there are, like you said, it's high dollar homes, but nothing seems to be flamboyant, or like the designs are relatively conservative.
Yeah, 100%. You'll see an elevator in a house with slate that's got like 1/2-inch grout joints.
Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy.
It's a little different there.
Wait, so going back to the question about knowing the builder and pounding the pavement, is that how you got in on that job? Is that you just ended up calling their office and saying, "Hey, I'm Clint. I want to bid on some work." "Oh yeah, great. We got this big project that has a $50,000 tub in it. You want to bid on it?"
As I wish it went that quickly. No, it was a few months. So I called the builder at one time. I didn't know that was the builder for that house. I called that builder, asked them if I could submit numbers on any current projects that they've got going on. They said they'd let me know, and they'd put my number in a file, which obviously everybody knows how that goes. But I happened to be at, I tried to make friends too with a lot of different trades. And there's a guy who does water jetting up here. It's like unreal. He makes all the medallions and everything. So I went to his place. I struck up a conversation with him. He ended up knowing that builder, and he was designing a lot of the medallions and stuff for the house. So I ended up asking him, like we hit it off because we talk a lot about the old school trade and mud work and and doing things the right way and that sort of thing. So he ended up calling that guy and saying, listen, there's a new guy in town. You might want to let him throw some numbers at you. So he ended up letting us bid.
He ended up letting you bid the job just based on that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I think the water jet thing, I think I at least for us, we're seeing it more and more, which is awesome. And Tyler used the word like flamboyant or modern, but that you're getting into more of the refined stone, and you're almost emulating something that really isn't what it is, right? You're talking about the porcelain micro slabs, looking like marble or having the marble-esque look to it, but you're actually miter folding it. So is that a lot like, is that kind of where he comes into the play, is kind of those refined fabrication techniques?
Yeah, so he's responsible for extremely high end, like City of Toronto has this 30-foot mosaic work with the big sundial and all this stuff in the city, and he does a lot of those things. So I figured if you want to know people and make friends with people in town, those are the people to do it with.
How do you meet him?
So I found him because we were doing some vents. So one of the clients wanted the water jet vent. So not an ARIA vent, but they just basically cut out a piece, a little bit bigger than the register, and you make your slats in it. So I called 3 different people, and that was the one guy that I liked the way he sounded on the phone. So I drove about an hour to go see him. And that was it.
I think, and I'm asking these questions because I envision a lot of people listening, how do I get to bid on a really cool project, whether it's Drake's house or whoever's house, right? So, that's where I'm coming at with these questions. But I think the important note, you kind of touched on it, is that you got on the phone with 3 different people, and one guy sounded like someone that you like. Mm-hmm. And you talked about how you became friends with him, and you didn't do it you didn't become friends with them because you were hoping to get something out of it. You guys hit it off because you guys talked about, mudding and old school techniques. But I think that's really important to note, is that it's, if you don't want to be the guy that is going to bid against low, other low bids, right? Mm-hmm. You also have to trickle that down into who you're working with. Mm-hmm. Meaning you're working with guys that are producing quality work at a fair price, because you also want to produce quality work at a fair price. Not, I want to produce quality work at a fair price, so I'm going to undermine my guys. That's
absolutely. And there's two aspects for me too. Is when so my uncle was a general contractor, and I asked him, I was like, what 2 trades, or I said, what trade makes the most money? Because I was 16, so I wanted money. And he goes, concrete.
Hold on. Who guesses, guys? Okay. Guesses on what was the answer?
I'd say plumber or tile.
Tyler?
I'd say plumber, and I wouldn't say tile. But Clint happened to go into the tile industry.
I was going to say plumber too.
I want to default to that just because.
That's probably why I'm defaulting, because I would have never.
I would never have picked tile.
No. Yeah. If I had to think about it without Clint's influence, definitely plumber. All the plumbers listening are like, F off. I don't know.
I don't either.
It's got to be a specialty.
Carpet.
Landscape.
Wait, is this 1980 or is this 2020? Because it depends on when you ask that question.
John, what's your guess?
I said plumber. I stopped there.
I'm thinking landscape might be number 2.
Really?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of who drives all the nice trucks. It's always the plumber. In the building.
I don't know. All right, so you didn't become a plumber.
No, I didn't. I didn't become a plumber, and the other one was a concrete pumper.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was way off.
I'm in the wrong business.
He told me, he goes, if you want to make good money, just pump concrete. And that was the way to do it. And so I asked him, I was like, okay, so how much money do I need to get started? And he's like, well, you need $100,000 truck. I was like, okay, what's next?
How much money do I need to become a plumber?
How much does it take to
crane operator?
What's that?
Be a crane operator.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, you need a hand cutter and a grinder. So you can pick up a grinder from Harbor Freight and rock and roll. So that's what I did. And he said, find the best company in Monterey and call them and just harass them until they give you a job. But you want to make sure that you find the best company, not the biggest, not the most well-known necessarily, but the best. So that's pretty much what I did. And I mentored with him for.
So, how did you know what the best was?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Honestly.
Let me ask, how did you know which one's the best one?
I was no lie. I was in Kmart parking lot, and there was this guy who had Mastercraft
red flag.
Seriously?
Kmart parking lot.
Thing, right? Well, I needed a new pair of jeans and a waterproof watch, so I go out and I'm looking for. I'm gonna go through the phone book and all this stuff when I get home. But as I'm leaving the parking lot, I see this big truck, jacked up Dodge, with airbrush lettering all over it, Mastercraft tile and marble. And I was like, wow, that sounds like they are really good and know what they're doing. And I got lucky because he ended up to be one of the absolute best tile setters that ever touched Monterey Bay. So I did get lucky. That wasn't by something I did.
So you went and worked for no tile setter.
Did you bump into him in Kmart, or did you just get his information?
I waited for him at his truck.
Stalked him?
Yeah, what he
Hey, you like my new watch?
Imagine what that looked like. Well, you would think that now, right?
It's waterproof.
Like a shark watch.
So I asked him, I tell him like, hey, listen, I'm looking for a job, blah, blah. And he's like, that's cool. He's like, but I don't have anything right now. So I took his number down. He didn't know I took his number, and I called him the next day. I was like, hey, I saw you at Kmart yesterday. I'm still looking for a job. And he's like, yeah, I still don't have one. So I legitimately harassed him for like 2 weeks, and he let me have a job. And once he did, I fucking busted my ass. So
you had no experience at that point setting tile?
Setting tile, zero. Yeah. My dad did some brickwork. So I was his hottie for a bit and mixed mud and stuff like that. But I'll be honest, anytime I worked with my dad, I didn't pay any attention to what I was doing. I just did what he asked me to do. And
right.
So working for that contractor, I know California does a lot of traditional setting methods. Was that basically what it was?
Yeah. He mudded everything. It was all old school.
And you're not doing that now?
I do when I can. I prefer that method because that's how I learned, and that's how my business functioned for a long time.
Is it a budget thing now?
It's getting over the hump that people don't understand it here. They're like, why would you drag in 400 pounds of concrete into my shower when Brian Baumler told me to use this board that's like 5 pounds? So it doesn't, and it looks hard. It's labor into, like, when you see someone do it. I did it for one of my builders. I did an 80 square foot ceiling, and I mudded the whole ceiling, and it was a hard work. But yeah, it's hard to get people to understand the difference.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, if you're not getting paid for it, it's not necessarily your job. You're a subcontractor on the job.
Right.
So it's not like you have the ability to upsell a customer at that point if the GC doesn't want to be upselling that or doesn't think that it's of value.
That's a good point too. I try to stay within that line with the GCs and make sure they're empowered to have those conversations with the client, but at the same time not get involved, because I find that the subs make that mistake a lot. They go directly to the client and they start talking about stuff, and they don't have the entire scope of the project understood.
It surprises me with a lot of the larger format stuff that more people aren't doing mud or screeding walls just for, the size of the tile, and making sure that things are flat. I feel like, I guess there's all the clips and all that stuff now to get bows out, but I feel like it would be so much easier on some of those larger format things to have a flatter area. Because if you're doing new construction, it doesn't matter what you're walking into. Your floors, you're not walking into flat floors.
No, never. And typically what NTCA is like, TCNA standards are like a 1/4 inch, 8 feet.
Yeah.
And like I see a quarter inch in a foot. A lot of times it's not. So we try to get in, and the developed relationships that we have with builders, they'll let us board a lot. So whether it's Provo board or something a little more cost effective than the Wheaties and Schluters, we can wet shim the boards, and that'll help us out. We have conversations with them about the taper coming in and making those sidewalls look good,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So
Are you wet shimming with the adhesive or thin sets?
with thin set? Yeah.
That's nice.
It works out really nice. It works out really, really nice, especially, I mean, for any tile, subway tiles, mosaic tiles, everybody wants like a feature wall mosaics and their walls out like 5/8 of an inch. And you're like, I can't make this look good.
So you're wet shimming, then coming back the next day and screwing it all off?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll set it with a couple screws to hold it in place. And then next day you bury everything and seal it up.
And what are you doing for your floors if you're not mudding?
We self-level a lot of floors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. And it's hard to justify.
Nick just did a big one. I feel like I've never had good luck with self-leveler.
It's an art in itself. It really is. And it's not one that I've perfected by any means.
And I want to interrupt you there because we did that video on it and we had good luck over the majority of it. But when our setter got on site, he's like, "Did you guys not check this area?" And we were like, seriously? Like, we talked about how perfect it was, and it wasn't. And I was like, it can't. Like, we brought the guy that does this every single day in the video because we wanted to make sure that this was going to be perfect. And he's like, nope, we had a 1/2 inch discrepancy. And we're like, dude, like.
But it appears good.
And that stuff it ain't cheap either.
You take a picture of it, and it's like, yeah, that's perfect.
We checked, the upper area, and we're putting the level across. I'm like, dude, everything's within like a 16th. This is awesome. Like, this is the best floor we've ever worked on. And then it's, we don't check one area, and his name's Mike, and he calls me. He goes, "That video you did, yeah, that's bullshit." Like, I'm look at. I'm like, man. I'm like, everywhere else is good, right? He goes, oh, yeah, everywhere else is great. But what, so you said you didn't perfect it either, but why is it so hard?
So we had a guy from Custom come and really like dial it down with us. And I almost had the same situation having that big penny round job that I did a few months back. There was about 250 feet on the floor that all needed to be leveled. And it was in and around a shower and this and that. Like, it was all over the place. Little closet, another little nook room. And he was like a pro in big open rooms. But once you started wrapping around walls, he was he was getting flustered and he was totally lost. But it's just, it's hard because it's like roofing. You get a pro roofer setting your rafters, it's like, boom, done, and you're good. Yeah. But if you get a young or someone who's inexperienced with him, that day gets really long really fast. But it's just practice, and you really understand like planes and just working that floor, and you just don't leave an area if it's not dialed, and you just go through it. And like I said, I haven't perfected by any means.
I think going back and thinking about it and thinking about other times that we've done it and have had we've ended up with worse floors than we started with, is that when stuff leaks, like meaning like you set it and there's a crack somewhere or like a micro hole that stuff slowly drips down and it's basically solidifying and dropping at the same time.
Yeah, you mean the pot light that's full of self-leveler in the kitchen?
Yeah. Thankfully, it was a concrete slab here.
We had that happen.
Yeah. But it is, and and Tyler, like he does the mud a lot, and we don't do it that often except for showers. We do a lot of mud when it comes to curblet showers.
Yeah.
And and my guys have learned a lot from the way Tyler has kind of put together. I think you did that article for Fine Home Building they read, but it's it's the best. Like you're screeding it perfectly flat, and you're ending up with a true surface to start from.
Yeah. I
think the hardest part about self-leveler, it's by the time you get the floor strong enough, and then you use the self leveler, and then you're decoupling and you're priming and this and that, and it's like it's so much work that it's just easier to just do dry pack at that point, where I'm like, if I devote a day to it, whatever, I don't have to come and prime and then wait for it to dry and then pour self leveler and then prime again, and then it's still not flat, and then I need decoupling on top of that. I'm just like banging my head against the wall, and then I go to set tile and I'm like, oh, okay, this floor is perfect this time. And then you start setting tile on, you're like, this floor is not perfect. And I just spent however, it's like $30 a bag too.
Yeah, the good levelers are really expensive, like those fiberglass reinforced ones.
I feel like I've just given up on it.
Yeah. I find here it's a lot of after the fact type of building, just because the education isn't there. Like, you need room for dry pack, or you need room for stuff. And I think that's the biggest issue, is that we come into a room and they're like, oh yeah, we want to meet this 5/8 hardwood, and we have a walk-in shower that's adjacent to a pocket door. And you're like,
that's me.
Yeah.
It's 3/4 though.
And you're like, you realize I have to go up 2 inches and to come back down to hit that drain. And then at that point, you're only using topical membranes, right? Like Curdy's, you're using Aqua Defense, something like that. That's the hard part. Those are the really challenging ones.
Yeah, that's it is true, because the height issue, you do have an issue with the height, but on our jobs, typically it's a remodel. So our subflooring, usually if we want to do something like a membrane or a decoupling, that we're typically adding another layer or subfloor as is, glued and screwed. So we still have that height there. So it's a little bit more for dry pack, but like every house that we go into, we're typically removing dry pack on an older remodel. So it's not like there wasn't a transition there in the first place.
Right.
So we're not having to deal with, hey, there's going to be a step into this bathroom that was never there before.
Yeah, I hate thresholds.
Yeah.
I like flat floors.
Yeah.
I like that too. I think that was a given. I just
It's
think
tough.
thresholds are tough.
Yeah.
And if you can eliminate them the best you can, depending on the product that you're using for tile, that, do the best you can. We struggle with that a lot because budget doesn't allow it. It's not, houses that have $50,000 tubs. You're always, as I say to my guys, you're always squeezing, like you're renting out a t-shirt that's wet, the best quality out of your guys. And, you're trying to find the right product for the best bang. It's tough. It's not always just go with whatever. Yeah, get the best thing on the highest shelf, the most expensive, and everything will work. It's what's everyone comfortable working with? What are we looking at for heights? What's the nitty-gritty here? And a lot of that stuff changes by the time we've built something to the time we actually install something. The design and the mood has changed, and it's really tough to manipulate that space to make everything perfect.
I mean, that's one side of it, right? From the working with the guys, the setters, who's in the field. But I think to Clint's point, after the fact building mentality, or not mentality, but just after the fact building or designing, where it's like, if that was thought out in the design of the home, it could have been planned for, which oftentimes that stuff's not even a consideration at that point.
Yeah.
Where it's
I struggle with this because Brad just from AFT just did a video that he, a lot like Melissa from Veranda, everything's picked out ahead of time.
Right.
And that is like such a fairy tale. It's like Alice in Wonderland to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Like
when, the bathroom we're doing now, it's like everything's already figured out. So we're framing.
But a bathroom. We're not talking about Drake's house. That's 25,000 square feet.
I'm not comparing it. I'm not comparing.
Okay, let me bring it back a little bit to someone that's building a 6,000 square foot house. 6,000 square foot house to someone who's building their first house to Drake building 25. The expectations and the overwhelmingness is the same. That if they're in the beginning stages, no foundation in the ground,
Right.
you would have to have, if I had a guess right now, 6 months to 18 months of pre-planning to be able to give them enough walk-through time per area to be able to dial it in, source samples as if you're doing each room. And I think a lot of people, when they hear this, they think of, hey, here's a PDF. You have 3 selections for each room. Pick away. Like,
I think this is the argument I've made on a previous podcast, is that having all this pre-planning done allows you to end with a better result. And I made the comparison to panelization, which I think we went down the rabbit hole of that, but in the sense of understanding what your floor ends up at with tile, then you frame to that. So it's like, oh, I gotta, here's my bathroom. The floor joists in this area need to actually be recessed 2 inches because this is what it's going to require.
It's tough, man. I mean, we've all been at different houses where even the farmhouse build, they picked everything with the designer. The tile showed up, we laid it out, and the designer pulled all the tile. All of it was too dark, even though they picked the lot, they approved the lot, they had samples of the lot, everything. It showed up, we laid it all out, we filled an entire room with it, and they pulled it. So like we were supposed to finish the house a month ago. They ordered new tile at that point. Mm-hmm. So like it is, I get it, but I can't see myself holding up the design of a house for you to determine what tile it is.
And I find that's kind of the downfall, I guess, the con of working in homes like this that are on the cutting edge or that are super exclusive, and you've got a lot of designing involved. Whereas, back in California when I was doing stuff, I heard a lot of times it was like, oh, whatever you think, like pinwheel, no problem, herringbone, no problem, whatever you feel like, Clint, just make sure it looks pretty at the end. And it's like, okay, you've got a lot more free reign. And it's not screwing up your schedule. That's the biggest part. Like these bigger places that have all these slabs and intricate stuff, like you get a shipment of slabs and the veins aren't lining up. They ship them out and you're 6 weeks, like Dectons, 6 weeks out from Spain. So I feel you on that. Like that scheduling, that's a big issue that happens, quite a bit.
Why did you, slightly off topic, but why did you relocate from California to Toronto?
My wife. Yeah, she's from.
That'll do it.
Yeah, she's from here and she's Italian, has a big family, so I wasn't gonna pull her away.
Did you guys meet in California?
We met in Vegas.
Oh, man, the truth comes out.
It didn't stay. I got no secrets, no shame.
Except for Drake's estimate.
What's that?
Except for Drake's estimate, that's the only secret we got.
Yeah, that's the secret. That's gonna go to the grave.
So at that point when you guys met, you said that it was around 2008 when the economy was already tanking, or no?
It was just after that. Yeah.
So you had your own business at that point. It was just you, or you and a helper, pretty small.
Yeah. At that point, it was very small. Before then, we tamped up. We had about 5 guys going, and it's pretty good.
So when you were moving, your goal the entire time was to start back up on your own when you got up to Toronto?
Actually, no. I was the guy who had gone through 2008. I was coming up on like whatever it was, 15 years, and I wanted to be. I just wanted a job. I wanted to make the same amount of money every week. I don't have to chase stuff down. And when I got here, that was my goal when I first got here. I would say like probably 6 months I felt that way. So when I got here, I go to get a job and everything is contracted or unioned out for like per square foot price. So I went to this guy and he said, yeah, we'll pay you $1.15 a foot to do floors, walls, everything. And I'm like, so I could be wrapping around a pony wall with bullnose and you're gonna pay me $1.15 a square foot? And he's like, yeah. And I said, and I could be doing 500 square feet of open floor and you pay me $1.15 a square foot. And he said, yeah. And I said, and I have to write you invoices. I have to pay my own taxes and I have to keep chasing you down for more work. So at that point I was like, okay, that's where I flipped over to my perspective of, I don't want to have to chase work anymore, but clearly I'm going to have to do this as a business. So that's when I decided like, okay, I'm going to chase my schedule and try to book myself out a couple years. And I worked backwards from there.
I never understood the low number on square footage costs for tile. I don't think that tile setting is the type. I know that it's easy on a bigger job, or if it's fairly straightforward, it's a big open room, quoting square footage prices or paying somebody square footage prices. I just feel like there's way too much that goes into the tile trade to be, like you said, if you're putting a bullnose around a knee wall or around a niche or whatever you may be doing, that it doesn't even out. You could set an entire wall of tile or floor of tile by the time it takes you to trim out the knee wall or trim out the niche properly.
Absolutely.
Like maybe it evens itself all out. I just think that every situation's different, and even on your job, depending on what you're walking into, as far as how it's framed or how much more prep work you have to do before you start setting tile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was always a big floor guy. Like I liked doing big open floors. So you put me in a tiny little shower or a bathtub, and it's like my worst nightmare. Like I don't like doing those little jobs. I like to achieve, constantly. And that it just didn't appeal to me at all. I'm like, wow, so I can make like $120 and it's gonna take me 2.5 days to do it. Okay.
So when you started working up there fairly regularly, what was that like versus California, other than you're probably using different materials and different designs at this point?
It was a little bit, I worked backwards. It was nice because what I was used to as far as understanding materials, back buttering, the actual meat and potatoes of tile installation was more advanced from where I came from. So in Toronto, they're cutting edge with materials. They've got unbelievable access to a lot of Europe's design. But when it came to the actual installation methods and on-site fabrication, I mean, ask 100 guys how to bullnose. I haven't seen one other setter in Toronto bullnose, like on-site, which blew my mind. Because in my perspective, you weren't a tile setter until you knew how to do every aspect of the trade. Yeah. So I found that easy to do. I kind of excelled when it actually came to the installation stuff. It was getting used to more, where are all the tile shops? Where can I buy stuff? That was really clumsy at first, and it caused me some issues.
I feel like relocating would be difficult as is, but then relocating when you just come from an economic or industry collapse and then you're trying to get your feet on the ground and you don't know where the tile shop is, or in the middle of doing something, you don't have the customer base, you don't have the network. I feel like I would bang my head against the wall, or so probably were banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, imagine doing that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to drive, but
that's it.
Then you can't go out.
I don't think I could do it again. Like 5 years it was a rough 5 years. The last, and I chased a lot. I did do a lot of work for $1 and $2 a foot because I had to. I wasn't going to sit at home, and I had to make a name for myself somehow. And
I think
we won't tell your wife, but which, California or Toronto?
Oh, California. She knows.
Yeah.
She knows. There's no secrets.
To find a way to get you back to California.
Yeah, I try. So like I talk to her all the time. I'm like, hey, Monterey, LA, San Diego. I take any part of California right now.
Yeah.
Tyler, I think you need a light.
Seriously, Nick was putting a light on.
No, I didn't. I see. Every time you guys talk, you're the main part of my screen.
Oh,
we
have it on
I'm
gallery,
not like
so
looking at myself.
I put the gallery on.
I'll just put the shades down in a minute so you guys can see me.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I didn't notice that I was completely blacked out.
Yeah,
I kind of like it.
There you are.
Say something cool so that we can use that as the cutaway for the podcast.
Sorry, I didn't realize this.
That's not cool. I had a question and I forgot because I got distracted by Tyler. Oh,
you guys see anything?
No,
it's a silhouette, dude.
Oh,
it looks like you're being interrogated.
You should have. Yeah, you guys should have told me earlier. I'm smoking a cigarette right now.
I think that's important to note, Clint, is that like you did, in the beginning you did take those $1-2, a square foot jobs because you had to, right? Because when you started talking about moving to Toronto, your goal was to set up for 2-3 years out, and and if you look at who you are and what you're doing today, and making and saying that, it's almost unrelatable, right? Because it's like, damn, like how did he come from 2008, moved to Toronto, not know where the tile stores were, said he was going to book 2 to 3 years out. He bid on Drake's job the first year he was there. Like, what am I doing wrong? But that, like, I want to call a light to that. Like, that's super important to know, because, again, like putting, pounding the pavement, as you said.
Yeah, I find that I try and I always have dreams and goals and expectations for myself long term. Constantly, I'm constantly thinking about those things. But there's a clear separation that I find with a lot of entrepreneurs have the ability to turn that off when they're actually working. So they're not concerned with their dreams or goals or aspirations while they're trying to complete a task. And I find that a lot of people will say, oh, can you multitask? And I have a hard time multitasking. I am the type of person that I want to set out, I can move from one task to the next and it can be completely different, but I need to focus on that one task at that time. I like to give it all of my attention. So I found that when I got here, I had the goal and I had the dream, okay, I want to be doing Drake's house. I want to be, but when that bid comes in, you don't stop there and then put your feet up and say like, oh, I've bid Drake's house. And, you're talking to your friends and it's okay. I bid Drake's house. Where's the next bid? Where's the next estimate? What's going on? Oh, I bid on Drake's house. Clearly I didn't bid $1 a foot, but then in the next breath, I did a VW dealership for legitimately $2 a foot for a trade shark who landed the job and he couldn't do it, but he had to hire a company who could. So those dreams are there for sure. But in the tasks, in the moment, I'm constantly focused on what is this task. And I try not to think about, the money. I've found that I've learned a lot from my own mistakes. And anytime I was focused on the money aspect of things, the job didn't go as well.
Yeah.
And if I can just remove that from my mind and just say, okay, I'm going to put this tile down. I'm going to achieve this job. This job's going to get me more work. This job's going to, other people are going to hear about it. And I know it sounds cliche. It's like, you want to make friends or you want to, whatever, you want to get a good reputation, but
relationships. Yeah.
Relationship building, and everybody's heard it, but actually applying it, I think it has to do with it's not chasing the stars. It's just what step am I taking right now? What am I doing right now? Okay, I have to do this the best I can, and I'm going to complete it, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. So I tried to take that perspective. I think it worked.
Do you feel like those custom jobs and those higher dollar jobs are more profitable and more lucrative for you, or that's just what you want to be doing? Because I feel like a lot of times as a subcontractor, you're basically depending on your builders to sell your level of quality for you. Oftentimes it'd be easier just to be like, hey, we're going to pump out a ton of volume. We're going to get that $2 a square foot. Or are you able to make more by staying smaller and doing the higher dollar jobs?
I think it's a good mix, because, sometimes we'll go to a slab fireplace and everything just goes really well. All the miters, there's no cracks, there's no breaks, there's no chipping, the epoxy flies in, the weather's good, the humidity's just, it's like boom, boom, and you're done in like a day and a half. And you're like, wow, that went really well. And then you'll be stuck on a custom, a 8,000 square foot custom for like 4 months. And you're like, fuck, this was supposed to take 2. So but there's also the flip side of that too. So I guess it's hard to answer that, because I think it depends. It all depends on the job.
Yeah, I guess I probably didn't ask correctly. I guess, why are you taking the approach and moving towards where you are? Is that just because that's the type of work that you want to be doing? And, I feel like it'd be easier to book out with just taking whatever falls in your lap and keeping that consistent log of work, or is it more your personality type that you constantly want to be challenging yourself and doing your best work and putting your best foot forward?
Yeah, I find that the constant challenge keeps me involved. And, I think at that 15-year-ish mark, I was getting bored. and I had just got kicked in the ass by 2008. So it was like, this trade really didn't do anything for me. And I'm just going to, it's my job at that point. I kind of lost the passion for a while. But when you start looking at the changes in the industry and you start kind of taking a look at different aspects of design and Instagram helps a lot because people are going, holy shit, I didn't know you can do that. And I'm thinking, well, why would you say no? Why would you say you can't do that? It just comes natural. Like you would want to give, of course they said when slabs came out that you couldn't miter them. Like the manufacturers, everybody was saying, do not miter this. You can't do it. You have to use metal edges. And the first thing, I had a guy named Pete working for me. The first thing we got a slab and I was like, we're mitering this. I don't care. So that part keeps me enticed, yes. But on the flip side of it, I find that I don't want to be rushed. I don't want someone coming in and saying, when are you going to be done? I can't stand that. I want to be able to take my time. And I find that those jobs here, I find that aren't financially, decided. They're not decided by the amount of your quote, but more of your reputation. I find that they tend to leave you alone a little bit better.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than somebody breathing down your neck.
Hate it.
John, when are you going to finish that room?
Dude, it's looking good, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
a lot of cuts.
on Tuesday. You guys are going to be grouted and sealed, right? Like, no.
No.
But you know what's crazy is that so Tyler, the other model is to go smaller. And, one of the things you said earlier was that, looking at drawings and bidding stuff like that is kind of the worst part of the job, worst part of the business. I always look back at my plasterer when I lived in Malden. He was like a one-man show, and he had a helper that kind of jumped on and off. And he would have to let's be looking at work 2 to 3 times a week for the upcoming next 3 weeks. And to me, I always sat in my house, or if I was in my truck, whatever, and I would see him pop out, and I'm like, God, that seems like so much work. And it's a necessity, but it seems so counterproductive where he could be doing something else if it was a bigger size job, if he felt comfortable that way. But he wasn't comfortable with that kind of responsibility of, I tried him on a house. It was like, I love your work. He did kitchens and bathrooms, single room kind of stuff. And as soon as I got him into a house, like he had to bring in 4 other individual plasterers, so they all did individual rooms. He turned it into his own atmosphere he was comfortable with. And I still look back at that and go, guys do it all the time. I get it, but it's like that's so much work that every week you're going out on 4 estimates or 5. And then you might land 1 or 2 of those. And then next week it's 4 or 5 again, or 10. And then that's a part of the business that sucks. And it's either your numbers or you're still looking at stuff, but it's always, I feel like that can wear you out at that other kind of.
Clint, how many guys do you have, not right now, but when things are pretty typical and standard, how many guys are working for you?
5.
And it's different crews?
Yeah, so we have one crew full-time, just slabs. That's all they do. So we put them in a big van with an A-frame, and that's all they specialize. Everything else is traditional.
Or do you have a relationship with a dealer who's referring you for those jobs, or designer to be able to keep, or is there just that much work that you're keeping a crew busy doing that?
I take muffins and cookies to like every tile shop in Toronto. Legitimately. Yeah.
Donuts, dude.
Yeah. It's I'm like pastries, like whatever, like Portuguese pastries, Italian pastries. Like I spend a lot of money on that, but I think it's important. I don't do it with the expectation of they're going to give me a job today. I do it with just the idea of they're happy to see me when I walk in, and I try to leave them with that happy feeling, and then they'll think of me, when it's time.
That's crazy. Could you imagine I feel like Nick would be the closest to that. Could you imagine keeping a crew busy just doing slab work?
No, but no. And this is what, to John's point about, doing 3-4 estimates a week. It's like, that's what I don't want to be the builder at like calling for pricing. John, we talk about this all the time. It's like asking for a price. It's like I want to hire them based on reputation and their quality, and that's what we focus on. But I don't envy the fact that, you know, like my demo guy, he's got to have months booked, weeks booked out, like or on the phone every day lining up work, where it's like as a general contractor or a builder or something, it's like, no, we got this renovation. This takes us 6 months. And, you know, we're parked there, or maybe we have an overlap with another job. It's like where it's spread out more, because, you know, the worst, you know, when money becomes a factor in the decision making, and like even to the point of lining up work, you take work that you might not want to do, but you have to, right? You take that $2 a square foot tile job, and the day after you sign that job, someone comes and says, hey, I want $100,000 worth of slabs installed, you know, and, you know, I want to get on your schedule. And it's like that fine balance. And I think that's why I'm so intrigued about this booking 24, 36 months out as a specialty contractor, which I'm going to classify that as, like, because I want to do that as a builder. And, you know, and same thing. It's like, you know, we still take on projects that aren't necessarily exactly our fit. I think, you know, I've done a really good job of navigating our way, you know, into the direction that we want to be. But there's still that kind of like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward every year. And it's to get to that point where it's 24, 36 months out, you know, again, it's intriguing to me as a builder. And I think the biggest part of that is you saying that you're out chasing down the guys that are building the 4-year projects. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to relate that to me. All right, so if that guy's building 4-year projects, who do I need to then?
Architects.
Right. And that's in at least in my experience, it's in my position, they're the hardest person to break. And Agreed. It's like, you know, it's give me a shot. Well, I've had really great meetings with a lot of great architects, and it ends the same way every time. Dude, you're really nice. You do great work. We'd love to work with you. But we've been working with someone for 10 years, so it would be a risk to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I get where you're coming from, but there's gonna be a time when then you're gonna need me. So why not, you know, give me an opportunity now so we can develop that relationship over the course of the next X amount of years. So when that guy's done, you've already lined someone up, rather than being in panic mode when that guy isn't available.
Yeah, I think, and like a lot of times when I've run into a conversation with someone and they kind of say something similar, they're like, oh no, we're okay right now. Or like, we have, you know, a list of subs. Or I know it sounds really silly, but I always ask, like, okay, so what's your biggest challenge? Like, if you could change anything about one of your favorite person, what would it be? And I latch onto that like a fucking piranha. As soon as they say something like that, then my whole goal is now to address that for them. And they might not have that opportunity for you right now, but like you said, 10 years from now, they're going to want it. And I found that I try to look for the holes a lot with those
you have
people.
to. And I think that comes, you know, I would probably attribute a lot of that to all the sales books you've read, right? And understanding the psychology behind a sale. And if you're able to solve a problem without telling them that you're the solution to that problem, then they're going to look for that solution, and then you just happen to have it.
That's right.
And, you know, finding that hole or finding that issue and walking them through that, like, I'm going to use air quotes, psychological journey of a sale, you know, they're more prone to working with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
definitely.
Nick, do you think that an architect that's been working with someone for 15 years should easily flip a switch and try someone new? Or
I don't know.
It is like Clint said, he came on board with this guy, and he met him in the parking lot, stalked him, asked him for a job, and the guy was just probably panicked. You know, who's this guy near my truck? And then
with these new jeans,
waterproof watch.
And it's like, I don't think that even if someone came to me and said, hey, you know, I do this, I'm taking a massive risk. I know that there's 100%. Devils that I know with my guys, but I know them. But it's what's the path? What's the realistic path for you in that architect? Like,
Right.
is it
to answer your question?
2 years?
No, I don't. Right. I don't think that they should take a risk on me just based on one meeting, because if they're going to do that, then they're going to do that with the next guy.
There's no loyalty to you either.
Right. So it's, it while it's disheartening to hear that, the worst thing that you can do, and speaking what I've done, is take that as a no and move on, rather than what Clint's saying is like, all right, that no just means not today, so I'm gonna call him tomorrow. And it's
you're gonna link in with him and then post, and then they can keep up with you,
right? And it's
without having any commitment,
right? And it's like developing this relationship over time, and I think it is. I mean, with anyone. I mean, speaking as a builder to architect, it is. It's a long journey for that relationship. But I think to Clint's point, latching on to the holes and developing this, vision of how their life could be better, without saying I can make your life better. Just like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if you could work with a tile setter that could miter slabs? It would, then you could actually pull off that detail without using that metal edge and walk them through like, yes.
But even
we do
more
that.
so is like, if you do that with one, for Clint's case, one builder or GC, and Tyler for you, but then you go to the next meeting and go, hey, let me guess, you're having this problem with your current guy, and you're reading the what's on the wall. You're already at a comfort level where you're like, I'm not saying I'm solving that. I know the business just as much as you do, and now you've proved it to them.
Right.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not even complicated. It's like, don't stand me up at a meeting, or call me back when I leave a message, or return my email, or it's always something really stupidly simple that people kind of lose in long-term relationships. They lose, they get comfortable with someone and they're just like, I'll call them back later or whatever. And maybe the architect's trying to get a hold of them, the builder, for some reason or whatever. And just because they've been, friends for so long or whatever, they kind of lose that hunger, and you're right there.
They're
hungry
comfortable
and attentive and professional and got a good business acumen, and you're killing it. And they're like, you know what? Maybe it is time.
Clint, how many products did any clients bring you into the project?
That was my question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You were quiet. You want it? Okay, pause.
No, you got it.
Like clients, they go to the builder and say, this is my tile guy.
Yeah.
Clients, I hate that. It's like, it puts you in such an awkward position, because
with the builder,
the contractor's like, I have to put up with you. But
all that thing about his opportunity there.
Yeah.
It's such a great opportunity for both people.
John, if your client brings a tile guy, what's your first reaction?
Oh, see, I was looking at a different way, where a client have brought me to the architect. That's what I was thinking of, but I wasn't thinking.
Right,
I mean,
so
obviously it's
mine's a
kind
no.
of
Mine's an automatic no, but I'm open to talking to him, because
automatic
it's like
no.
Mine's not an automatic no.
Yeah, I would say I have to appease that person. Like, no is tough to say in our realm.
I came off with way more confidence than I actually would.
I was gonna say that's
Nope.
like nope. Like, put the hand up. It's no. I think it's more
it's the
of
V-neck. Apparently, John and I forgot him tonight.
It's Mike's.
deep.
yeah, what's going on?
You like that? My
Benny rocks the V all the time.
Yeah, he does.
I was on my Zoom meeting today, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, casual." I'm like, I literally just unbuttoned it. It's hot up here. That's it. Same shirt, just unbuttoned.
No, I mean,
Yeah, it's not a hard no for me. I mean, I'm also looking at it from a different perspective, because we don't subcontract a lot of work out. So for myself, I'm thinking, hey, here's an opportunity for me to develop a relationship with the new subcontractor that may or may not work out. If it doesn't work out, I know that I have to do my best to keep them in line, but you almost have somewhat of a pass because the customer brought them to you. So you have a little bit of leeway there, because you're like, hey, this isn't my contractor that I brought on. This is who you brought on. This was your referral. And if you need to do something at that point, you kind of have a little more weight. But if I think that it does give you an opportunity to possibly create a new relationship or have a new subcontractor that may work out for you. And you don't have to sell the customer on that person.
All right. I'm going to agree with that, and I think why I jump to saying it's a hard no is it depends on the reason why.
Yes.
And because in the past we've done it where it's like, oh, you know, I'm going to use my painter because it's cheaper.
He owes me.
Yeah, or like he owes me. There's a favor. It's the delivery and the reason why they want to bring. If they said, hey, I want to use my tile guy, Clint, he's amazing. You should check him out. You should talk. You guys would be great for each other. Not being this financial, not because it's a financial decision based on like it's a cheaper alternative.
Yeah, and I would want that still to go through me because I would be managing that person.
But I think about our Boston job where we acquired 4 trades from the client because it was a takeover, and we recently just had to have a very serious meeting because we could not get the quality out of the work. We were having tremendous issues over and over to the point where it was getting too expensive for us to manage it, and it didn't make sense anymore. And that was a decision that, you know, we made early on that they did come to the table with the right reasoning for why we should use them. It just didn't pan out, and it's our brand. At the end of the day, as a builder GC, we're responsible if something goes wrong.
Well, I think, Nick, you touch on something very important is communicating the boundaries and the guidelines to that relationship. So if you're pulling in a tile guy and he's like, I do all pans, all rubber liners, I don't do a pre-slope, this is how I've done it for 100 years, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, I want a pre-slope and I want you to use the weedy system. It's where's the who trumps who at that point. And I think that's important to have that conversation with the client. Because I kind of said this earlier, is I always try to be a good soldier, I guess, and go to the builder and say, okay, listen, you know, what do you guys prefer? I've had guys hand me a roller Schluter and say, waterproof the shower with this, with no liner, no, you know, you get a 3-piece drain. And I've done a folded Curdy liner with the pre-slope and then dry packed on top of it with a 3-piece, because that's what I was given. That's what I was told to do. I made it in a way that I was comfortable with it. But I think that's important, right? Like is making that point, like you said, coming with confidence, saying, I'm the builder. This is what I would like. This is the process in which I would like things to go. Mm-hmm. It's when that argument happens that how's that handled, I guess.
I think, Nick, your situation is probably an extreme end Absolutely. Of the spectrum. I think I would be hesitant. I mean, you're walking into a job, taking it over for somebody difficult, hairy situation to begin with.
Right.
I think that would be somewhat extreme. It's just like anything else. If somebody comes to you, my current job, they came to me with an HVAC contractor, and I haven't had tons of HVAC contractors that I've loved. Not even a quality of work, whether it's communication, billing on time, cleaning up, being professional. So for me, it was a referral from the architect to the homeowner, and then the homeowner said, this is who we want to use. So I then got a hold of the HVAC contractor. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm going to try these guys out with a free pass on this job that basically, like, I didn't bring them to the table. So if things go south, it's not really on me. So it was a great opportunity for me to try that and try somebody new that I wouldn't typically use. And they've been great. So now I have a contact in my book moving forward that I would rather use than anyone else I've used before.
I was going to say, do you like anybody as a sub? Like, the bar is extremely high to work for you.
Yeah, like, I like these guys. I like my old electrician. I like my new plumber.
There you go.
I've only tried one guy as a tile sub, and I did not like him. I guess that's pretty much all. Listen, I used to like my drywall contractor, hence me doing the drywall now. I don't like him anymore.
Watching his stories today.
So what happened with my drywall contractor? They always did nice work. They had somebody who answered the phone, did all the scheduling. They sold the company, and the kid who was in the field is now running the company, and it's a mess. You can't get anyone on the phone. They don't show up when they say they're going to. They don't clean up. There's no schedule. There's no billing. And at that point, it's like, what I hired you for before is all through the cracks now. So I'm at the point where I need to look for a new drywall sub, and I don't really have time to do that.
Well, and when you're trying someone new, who has time not only to try to, if it goes well, you have to track them down and find the good guy. But what if it goes bad? Or what if there's personality issues on the side? Like, there's so much things to take into account when you're trying someone new. It's hard.
Yeah. And again, with what I'm doing, working one job at a time, it doesn't always make sense to pull off. I'll be completely honest. I hate tile work. If I could not do one thing, and that's not a knock, like, I have complete respect for people who set tile day in and day out. I personally don't like it. It's heavy. I feel like I'm always anxious because thin set's curing, or it's taking too long, or it's going to leak, this and that. And that's just always been the case. I've just never enjoyed tile. If I could find somebody who could take care of things and do things and not try and pull the wool over my eyes, I would love to subcontract tile out. But at the same time, when it comes to be tile on this job and I have 2 weeks worth of tile work, what am I going to do? Go sit at home for 2 weeks? And it doesn't make any sense for me to pull off the job and then go create other work. So I stay there and I do the tile work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes it's only going to, you chase more work. It's only going to open up to more variables and more issues that you're going to have to handle. So yeah, it's probably better just to do it yourself.
Yeah, it makes the most amount of sense, but I would say that I do have high standards on jobs. Yes, John, but I also do feel like for my subcontractors, I'm lobbing them, setting them up for success.
Agreed.
You should be able to come in, and if you are a professional and this is what you do every single day, it shouldn't be hard for you to succeed. I have a few core subcontractors that I use in and out, and then it's always something that there's a change. My electrician is getting older and started inspecting part-time, and then he hurt his ankle playing basketball. So all of a sudden I have to find a new electrician, and you try him on a job and then you don't like him. And then it's like, well, I already had him bid 2 other jobs, and then he's still on the job that I have now. And I'm babysitting him because I don't have enough time to go find a new electrician that I'd be happier with. So it's I feel like it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, we've bumped into it a few times where, like, the Cambridge project we're working with, they're a development company, so they've had their own network of people. So we looked at it as an opportunity to combine the 2 networks, and that's because there's a mutual respect between who they are, what they've created. Like, before we got that job, Benny came in with me and we walked one of their jobs they just finished, just because that's like you're only as good as the last job you do. Mm-hmm. So we walked it and wanted to see the execution, wanted to see what they had. And if it was all butchered, then we'd be like, all right, let's reconsider who we're having bid this, because it is a lot more work. But we tried it. And again, there's hiccups, but we said that, like Clint, you said, there's the expectations, meaning as soon as someone says it to me, it's like, I got to vet them. It's not about money. If they screw up our schedule, we got to lose them, because we're only as good as our network of people that we have, and that's who we keep close to us. Like, anyone can say that they're the success of all their projects individually. That's crazy. That's complete bullshit. Because anyone that says that, they're lying, because it's all about their subs and who they have in their network. And if you compromise that with a sub that's a deal, that could kill everything. Especially some of those critical subs that do, not just tile, but like your critical path for mechanicals. Even tile. I know we did a job years ago where, when I took a job on as a GC, this is when I was still wearing a tool belt, the guy's like, can I bring in my own tile guy? And I'll watch him directly. And I remember that job. I did the whole thing, and I remember the contractor walking through, I'm like, that shouldn't be done like that. They did Carrera, and they had drywall screws in the sheetrock, in the door rock, and I was like, you're gonna see. And I can only raise my hand so much, but I'm not accountable for it. When it was all said and done, was it worth that money? And sometimes people need to learn that lesson on their own.
What does that do to the guy if you have built a good network and you do use the same person all the time, and you got to bench him for a month?
I know,
because someone brought in this person. that kind of hurts that relationship a little bit too.
No, I mean, we're lucky where we have enough work going on. But like, for instance, Nick, Diego, like when we came to do plaster for that job, Benny's like, I'm using their guy. Because I mean, obviously we have an out, meaning we don't control it. Thank you, sir. We don't control it, but it's like,
nice door,
right? Dope. It's my soundproofing moving blanket. But what was it? No, I mean, we can't control that part of it. You get me? So we have a bit of an out there. So if it does go poorly, we can say, hey, we got to lose that. But we also have areas where we can put those other subs somewhere else. So it's not like our electrician did get benched. We're using them in a couple of different areas. Yeah. So it's not like they truly feel it. But yeah, like Diego I was like, oh God, you going to post a story about you plastering right now? Like, should you be doing that? Like, did you talk to him first? And it was
How about that? Can we talk about that for like 2 minutes? Is being not able to post certain things because other clients are watching or this is going on or that?
It's tough.
I mean,
I feel like you guys run into that.
Yeah, it's
look at Nick plays it off like he doesn't.
Yeah. No, I mean, we all do, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely been times where I've gotten, back when it was just 3 of us, I remember getting an email from a client. She said, hey, I understand the project's difficult, but you haven't been here a couple of days, and you're pretty savvy on social media, so I know what you're doing. And I was like, and this was a client that I would have bet the entire amount of money on that job that she wasn't on social media. And I was dead wrong.
You never know.
Right.
Yeah. I had my old boss, the Kmart truck guy. He would always tell me, we walked into a house and he's like, you're being video taped right now. Like everything you do in the house is being video recorded. And I was like, you're crazy. You're paranoid. Like I always give him a hard time. Like you're paranoid. But I think he knew that, not every house had a nanny cam in it, but it was more along the lines of if you act like that, then you'll be a lot safer. But yeah, the posting, it sucks because like you said, if you have 2 or 3 projects going on at once, and a lot of the calls I get, it's like, oh, you're going to do all our tile work, right? And I'm going, no, like this is a 6-week project with 8,000 square feet of tile on the floor and walls. I'm not doing your job by myself. No, there's full crews of people, but heaven forbid I don't go to that job and I post a story from another job. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's Chicken Little, like calling me like, oh, hey, I see you're over there. So I've had to limit the posting sometimes for that.
Do you imagine doing that? I mean, I don't think that that's my personality type, but could you imagine doing that to somebody who is working for you?
Never. Never.
I know. That's crazy.
It'd be like the person who was cleaning my house posted a story cleaning somebody else's house. Be like, I saw you
what time you
clean
coming over?
So-and-so's house today.
Oh, you couldn't work through dinner tonight? And you're like, wow, thanks.
Or
I feel like there's a lot of that with customers where I just think to myself, I would never say, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I say that shouldn't come out of my mouth, but when you have a customer there or you have somebody hired you, the way that people treat us sometimes, I'm just like, I would never treat somebody in the service industry like you treat me. Like I'm your indentured servant.
I legitimately had a guy tell me, like, you can come by to do this touch up. And I said, I'm just headed home to have dinner with my wife. I haven't seen her for like 2 weeks because I was busy as hell. And he responded with, just push your dinner back a little bit.
Peace.
I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Great idea. Great idea. Let me call you right back.
Wait, but that's the difference between a client texting you or something face to face, or a phone call, because there's such a
buffer.
It's a huge amount of buffer. It's like everyone's a tough guy via email and text message.
Do that.
And face to face, they would never be that crass with you and expect that much from you when they're looking you in the eye.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more polite in text.
Clint, you're still hands on, and I think that in a lot of ways, right? Are you hands on every day?
Is that for me?
Yeah, for you.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
what those two guys do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I
I
try to
think.
do as much as I can. Like, there's a lot of times where I'll be doing something and Tyler's like looking at me and he's like, "Why are you here? Like, don't you have an estimate or something to do?" Just,
Right, and I think that's where for me I've removed myself from being hands-on. So when I was, it was like I'm speaking to your point about social media, right? Is that when I was involved in the day to day or with execution on site, that's when I would get well, why are you working on that job? When are you going to get to mine? Where I don't see that as much because it's just not my role. My role is the business and checking in. So the
well,
story.
how do you do that? How do you that's where I would ask you guys is how do you take yourself from a tradesperson and say, okay, I'm going to run a business now full time, and kind of now my passion has come back for tile after, in the last 5 years, and I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm excited to go to it every day. How do I remove myself from that situation?
Why do you want to remove yourself?
It's not that I want to remove myself. I find that coming in and out of a project seems to not help the project as much. It's more for me. I'm being selfish and saying I want to do this fireplace.
But do you like build? No, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Do you like building the business more, or do you like being in the field working?
Tile all day.
Right. So I mean, I'm going to guess that you probably are trying to figure out how to get out of it so you can grow your business to be something more than it is. And in some sense think that you need to remove yourself from the field, when the reality is, if what you love doing is setting tile, then you should be setting tile, and you should be hiring, rather than hiring another tile setter, hire someone that can run the business.
Well, and that's where I'm at. I want to endorse the education of the trades and like apprenticeship, like an actual apprenticeship. I know that's long gone in a lot of places, but I want to endorse that, like bring in younger people that are, this is my life. This is
Right.
my passion, is what I want to do. Not just, I do construction because, that warehouse job didn't work out. I want people who are motivated to be in this field for a reason.
Right.
So
I speak only, obviously for myself, but when I removed myself from the day to day, it's because I wanted to build a business and I enjoyed that more.
But do you saying that to yourself? Because a lot of times it's necessity. And
I
genuinely
love this, and I genuinely love the team building, and it's more gratifying now to see these guys grow as individuals than it was for me to be on site actually doing the work. And that was not how it was when I started. When I removed myself from the field, I didn't like the business side of it. Mm-hmm. But it was when I started realizing that running a business doesn't mean I have to be doing invoicing and bookkeeping. It's like actually building a business and growing this into what is my not my end goal, my goal 36 months from now. And I started realizing how much I really love that when I did jump in the field, like your guy my guys said the same thing. They're like, you're not helping. If anything, you're making my job harder. So now it's when I'm in the field, I'm not there to help. I'm there to, most of the time, I'm there to challenge their creativity. Meaning, like, they're doing something and I'll question, like, could you do that better? Could that be cooler? Could this be a better detail? And that's, in a lot of ways that isn't helpful, but every so often it is, because then they get this opportunity to kind of rethink their process and become better at it, or come up with a more creative solution or a more efficient solution, or just have the confidence. We're doing this tricky detail on a project, and the guys just didn't feel confident in how they would go about it. So they asked me on Monday, they said, can you just come in on Wednesday and spend a few hours with us and just walk us through how you would do it? And I said, sure. And I hopped on site. I grabbed the saw. I cut the detail on this metal jam. I'm walking through it. I do an okay job at it, but the fact that I got in there and just kind of went right for it eliminated them spending a whole day considering how they would do it, and realized that I got it. Like, I understand what he was trying to achieve. The next one, they did 20 times better than I did.
Yeah.
But it was just like unmasking that that confidence and that creative thinking is like, that's what really is gratifying to me. And helping build them as individuals, but ultimately the business.
Yeah. The best part is being a great support system for the guys. Whether that's a subcontractor, anybody, even the podcast. I think that's the fun part about this role I find myself in, is just being a support structure for everybody. Not having to do it. Don't get me wrong, I love spending way too long making cuts. Tyler, I actually worried that if you could see this video, if any of those angles are off in the video.
Pretty blurry.
But you can't
Pretty blurry.
But no, I think that's a cool part that you can, to really look at it, Clint, is once you make that, the transition from putting the bags down or getting your hands dirty and your callus is wearing off and then going into management, it isn't a switch. It's good for it to bleed into each other and then finding your right role. Mm-hmm. Like Nick's saying, it's not the perfect storm, and it's not going to solve everything by pulling the bags off and not doing it. There is a bit of a huge gray area to find out where you fit in a company, even if it's your own.
What do you want with your company? Not necessarily a timeline, but what's your goal at the end of this? Do you want to stay relatively small and manage a few guys and not do any site work? Do you want to be on site most days? Do you want to have a bigger company? And then I think that the follow-up question would be why.
Yeah, I think the size isn't as much of my concern. I want to be known in the city as being the best company. I want people to say, that's who we're hiring. That's it. Like, there's no question. There's not. It's like that's who we're going with. How many guys I don't have a number, because I think we had 27 last year at one point.
Wow.
Employees, and I found it to be way too stressful.
Fucking nightmare.
And you're constantly, every morning you wake up, you're like, what got fucked up today? Yeah. And you're running. I managed everybody in the field. My business partner managed the office end of things, and I was in my truck. I would drive 400 miles in a day, just bouncing around, and I felt like I accomplished nothing all day. So
the size of your company would be at that point kind of dictated by the size of jobs that you'd be wanting to do. Like if a phone call comes in for that Drake house, you want to have enough manpower to do a job like that?
I think we can handle any size house. I think 3 to 5 people can handle that. I think because you're not on a project where they're like, okay, you have 2 weeks. You're on a project where they're asking you, how long do you need? And that's important for me. So I can manage that within that, that sweet spot, five employees. I think is kind of a perfect place to be, because it allows me to, if we are on an extended job, I can go to site, I can work a little bit, I can pick a bathroom and do that bathroom, or I can pick certain jobs. So it's not necessarily the size, it's just more the comfort level, and the crew that I have is at least long-standing, that 5-person long-standing, and then if we want to bring in apprentices, 1 or 2 apprentices at a time.
Do you right now, the people who work for you, do they have company vehicles, or are they working with your tools, their tools? How's that structured right now?
One crew has a van we bought. I don't necessarily know that I love that. It's just we found logistics for the slabs were really difficult. So we found it better for us to be able to pick up the slabs ourselves instead of having them delivered. And then we controlled our start times much better. So that's why we did the van, which got a big A-frame inside of it. And it had to be a van because of the weather. So that's the only vehicle we had out. I actually positioned last year. I wanted everybody to have a car. I wanted everybody to have a car, full benefits. Like I want to give what gives the farm away, but money, right? It's like it becomes an issue if you start throwing a bunch of money at people. They get, I don't know if it's
they only want more of it.
Yeah, it's almost like whatever you do, you have to leave more because it's going to get asked for.
Yeah, that's something, I mean, that's been brought up a lot. And it's, for me, I chose to do the vans and the company vehicles because of consistency of image.
Yeah.
And it was like I wanted the van to be on the street in front of our job, and I wanted it to roll up on a job with our name on the side. And it's tough because you're absolutely right that you look at the balance sheet and see what you're paying out on all this stuff. And it's just it's crazy. It's like, man, like if I eliminated that, I'd save this much money a year.
And it's your image. How much is the image worth, or the advertising worth? And you have to have that conversation with yourself, right?
Right, and it's and people have asked, and to me, it wasn't about. In a way, it was like I wasn't measuring that. It was just I wanted the professionalism of a lettered vehicle showing up. Not everyone driving some, a random vehicle to the job site.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. It's extremely tough, because then it's like if I could afford it, I'd buy everyone a vehicle.
Yeah,
I'd like every
Shocker.
Huh?
Shocker.
I know, but like I'd have like a fleet of S10s for all the apprentices with like NS Builders on the side. But
do you still believe that it's that valuable?
I don't think I can answer that. I don't know.
I'm still kicking myself. Last year I spent $8,000 on clothes, like pants. We had the construction pants with the logo on it. We had shirts, we had hats, sweatshirt, everything. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, half of it's destroyed, like no one wears them, and the other half, we don't have enough guys to wear this stuff. Even like there's like 2 or 3 guys showing up on one site, so it's not like that presence that you think of.
I don't know. I mean, I like, you say you want to be known as the best. It's like I have similar aspirations, and I also want everyone to know who we are. And I want to be put, I want to be put in that position where it's like we are under a microscope by everyone. Let's do our very best every single day. And for me, that that's the for social media, that's why I choose to promote us, the way I do on social media and video and Instagram, and and who I am and who my team is and who they are as people. It's like I just want I like being under the microscope because it forces me not to trip up. And when I do trip up, it's like everyone lets me know.
Yeah, but I think there's another part where, where I think about it is I'd rather just be in my niche, dialing that in, and it will be seen, it will be heard by the right people that are looking for it. And not just by the masses and go, oh, there's that truck again, where I've been faked out by so many cool logos.
Totally.
And had a false sense of trust with a crew because of whatever BS. Clint, I would get rid of anyone with a leaded shirt as long as that site's super clean when tile's happening. I'll take that all day, and I will brag leaps and bounds over somebody that's not asking me for $1 every day of the week when it's due, and I'll be happy to give it because everything's done and it's clean. Yeah. Like, I love my electrician. I hate the fact that it looks like he's a bird leaving bird droppings everywhere he goes. And it's like, yo, so I don't care what he drives. He could drive a beautiful vehicle. It's goddamn irrelevant to me.
Right.
And anyone that's in this industry that were to drive up and they were to refer me, I'd say he's great, but it's never about that. And I think it's just a little bit deeper where I love the branding part of it. So people do know you're there. Like the sign needs to be on point, stuff like that. And I even look at it like when now everyone's putting signs out in front of my jobs. I'm like, I literally stopped last night at like 7:30, and I was organizing all the signs because these idiots just threw them up. And I'm like, yo, is anyone thinking about how this looks when you drive down the street? Right. Can we line up all the heights?
Like, is that a plaster?
Yeah, but no, it's just like they're all at different angles. I'm like, can someone take the lead here? I don't know. I mean, that's.
I mean, to speak to that, it's like, I take a lot of feedback from my team and ask them what they want, and they like the shirts. They like the lettered shirts. They feel as though there's professionalism there. I think, you can't, and I know you weren't, John, but you can't just say like, well, I've been fooled by the guys in the lettered trucks, because you can be fooled by both, right? It doesn't matter whether they're lettered or not. And I think that's the point you were making. But at the same time, for me, it's, if we're going to have the professional vans and we're going to have shirts and professional business cards and like be professional, like that has to trickle down all the way to our delivery, to the cleanliness of our job site. Like this, let me start up here and give you guys the opportunity to look professional, and you guys need to now maintain that. Yeah, but
I'm thinking of what you and I right now is that you and I both know some of the biggest tile setters in our area are all logoed up.
Agreed.
And it's an absolute shit show.
I know. And
I will take the boutique guy in a deep V, wife beater, whatever it is, all day.
I did get him to wear skinny jeans.
I got a guy, honestly, I pride myself in finding these little guys that, not little, they're great people, awesome personalities, but little boutiques that are phenomenal at what they do.
And I think
no one knows about.
I guess my point is it's not, there's no right or wrong between whether or not you need to have a lettered vehicle or not, right? My choice is my choice for the reasons I've done it. It doesn't, could we be where we are today without any of that? Probably, because, our work, like we're really hired for our work and our reputation.
Yeah, but let's take a step back. 1,000-foot view. If you didn't have whatever
You'd
it is.
see the roof of my van.
Well, let's say you pull back 3 of those vehicles.
Yeah.
Could that have bought a general manager for your company?
Yeah.
And would that have been more essential over the last year and a half?
Yes.
Than having those trucks and bringing that working?
I would say yes. So,
and that's what I think about is I think about all that stuff, and it's like, am I putting, when I see that image, and it's like, could I have done, it's like social media. Mm-hmm. Some days I just don't want to do it because there should be more time put into billing, more time on the job site where it's 45 minutes. Yeah, but then the next day
it's like, you realize the value of it. I mean, it's, again, there's no right reason. There's no right or wrong here. It's just, it's preference.
I guess John, I even asked the question because I'm thinking, listening to Clint talk about kind of what he wants and where he wants to get his company, and I could be putting words in your mouth, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he wants to build his business to get to a point, and it's basically not even building his business, building his reputation to a point where he's the go-to guy. He can handle the size project that he needs to, and it's not going to be cost driven, and he wants to be the name that anyone calls when they have any high-end work. And I'm thinking to myself, get to that point, get your core group of guys and fit them out so that they can handle whatever job. They can be on a job by themselves. And that's why I'm kind of asking the question, does everyone have the company vehicles? Are you working out of one truck? Is it shared tools? How many crews are you looking to run? Not even necessarily, it's kind of a question that popped into my head. And I feel like if you want, and it's just perception, right? But if you want to be in with those builders and you want to be in with those architects, it's the same thing that a lot of times it's your first impression. Mm-hmm. And it's the way that you are perceived. And who do we just speak with? John, was it you, John, that said, if you're going to meet with an architect, you have to dress the part. You don't want to look like a slob. And I feel like it's the same thing. It's putting your best foot forward. And if you are building that core group of guys, it's a handful of guys that you can get to a point where they're bringing in enough money and you're doing enough higher end work that you now have the vehicles on site for people. I don't think that that's a bad thing.
No, but I feel like on the flip side is what am I paying for?
That's your business,
No, I know, but at the bottom line is in the back of your head, it creeps in. It's am I paying for the $8,000 worth of gear, or am I paying for craftsmanship?
Mhm.
Like these guys, like there's a lot of guys in this industry right now that you can pay them whatever X amount of dollars. It's not filtering down to their guys. Like I'm thinking of a few painters right now that we have where they're the guys that are actually painting, they don't see it. It gets dumped into their company for logos and all this other stuff where I'm not saying like my truck's logoed. I love the branding. I get it. Set the image first. It's just sometimes we need to take care of the people that are actually doing it and making sure that's first and making sure
I don't think we're in I think people absolutely are first. I think it's not speaking in order by any means. I mean,
and I'm not talking about any of us here. I think there's people that listen and try to imitate what they see on social and all that, and they get confused by it.
Sure.
Like they're sitting there, they're well beyond their means. They got, they're trying to spend money on their looks and their image instead of building their.
That's a great point. I mean, prime example right now, we were supposed to order new sweatshirts and jackets and stuff for now that winter's over.
It's spring, bro.
Yeah, I know.
I know there's deals, but
but just like new gear for the guys, but with everything going on, that didn't make sense. Especially now, it's like, okay, so number one is the people. How do we keep people paid? How do we keep people working if we can? Like that's number one. Everything else, the first thing we did is just go through like what don't we need? Is there anything we can get rid of to make sure that people are first? It's like, are we paying for something that we don't need? Whatever it is. And John, that's a great point. People first and image second.
Do you think your builders, Clint, would it matter to them or not matter to them?
I find that eventually I think it would. I think if they gave us the first shot and we happened to just shock them because we showed up with thin set all over us and we were kind of a mess, and then somehow provided a super clean job, we're on time and banged out, did a great job, I think they would kind of look at us better. But it's almost like, we're an underdog at that point. If we're showing up anymore without some kind of branding on the vehicle and some kind of a company shirt, I think you're an underdog right now.
So you think it's more so for that impression or the perception up front? I mean, I guess I'm looking at it from, if I'm going to a subcontractor and I want to hire a subcontractor, I know what that conversation is going to look like on my end. I don't necessarily know if all builders or contractors are like me. So what's important for you to bring to the table, or what are your contractors coming to you? Obviously, quality is going to be one thing, but what do you think you're either bringing to the table or your contractors want from you that you're using to sell your business?
I find that I gravitate towards people who kind of want to run the same type of a company as I do. And I was always really anal about clean, fresh, sharp when you present. So I don't know if it's as much about having the branding as it is, those builders, they're very similar to me, and they don't want a guy that smells like an ashtray pulling up, tears all over his clothes the first day. Like, 2-3 weeks into it, and you go grab a smoke from time to time, whatever, clients look past that. But when you first knock on that door, and even though you're a sub trade, or maybe they don't live there or whatever, they still want you to present like they would. And Absolutely. Some of the builders are just as bad as I am about appearance. Is like the first step. Like I refuse to allow any of the guys to smoke within like an hour of showing up on the job, because for me, I don't want the first thing that, maybe the homeowner's parent just died of lung cancer. Like, you have no idea what they're dealing with in their own life, and you just show up, and the first thing is you smack them in the face with that, and it's almost like they're already put off on defense.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. It's hard to say, like, do you spend $8,000 on clothing, apparel? No, absolutely not. Especially if your business isn't doing what that would justify. You know, if you make your budget, if you're pulling in $1 million a year, then maybe 8,000 doesn't sound so bad. But if you're a $200,000 a year company and you're spending $8,000 on apparel, then yeah, you've got issues.
Right, but there's
or it's
ways
not
to
important.
scale that, right? You get them
Yeah.
they show up in a nice jacket, the jacket comes off, they go to work.
Yeah, fresh
like-
white t-shirt and blue jeans are amazing. Like,
Right, show up clean, like present yourself.
Presentable.
Yeah, you have that one chance to make that. I mean,
So I think the builders, they like it. They like if you show, you know, like we have King Tile. There's, you know, everybody's wearing a King Tile shirt. The truck, big van says King Tile on the side. The little Tile Freak emblem's there. So they're like, oh, wow, maybe I'll get a shout out on Instagram or something. It's like a, you know, kind of you show up with a little more and they're like, yeah, that's why I hired them. Because I have another guy who does great work, but, you know, Elio shows up just by himself, one bucket. He gets the job done. He does a good job, but I don't kind of get all that, you know, fluff for the client too.
I mean, I think it was Gary that said it last time. It's like you show up, the first thing you do is put down floor protection. It's like, boom, there's your first impression. It's like, okay, this guy, you know, respects what he's walking into and that he understands that it's my home. And he's doing, you know, it's like when you put booties on or you take your boots off before you walk in the door. It's like they're judging that.
I think a lot of it is integrity, and I don't think it necessarily has to do with having branding or having a brand new truck or the nicest tools. I think that having things neat, organized, like you actually care. You don't have to show up you don't have to be head to toe in gear. You don't have to have expensive clothes and expensive car. But I think it's the same thing as rolling up the back or opening the doors to your truck or trailer, and you care enough to have everything organized. It doesn't matter if it's Festool sustainers. Like, it could be handmade plywood boxes for everything in coffee cans. The fact that not everything is thrown everywhere shows that you have enough respect for yourself that you'll in turn respect your customers' houses. It's very rare that people who have an absolute mess of a truck walk into a job site and keep an absolutely tidy, anal, neat job site. It just doesn't usually happen. And to anyone out there who does, I apologize, but it usually
you should DM Tyler.
It transcends from, you know, home to work truck to job life.
Prove it. DM
I'm
Tyler.
actually a slob at home, but my closet's a mess, but I like to keep, that's like where that part of me manifests itself, to keep the job site clean, keep the work tools clean, keep everything organized. And I think whether it's branded or not, it's somewhat irrelevant at that point. It could be an old truck too. I think that you take care of your stuff shows that you're going to at least take care of your customers.
It's the same as the job site. Like, I say it to my guys all the time. I walk into job sites and I'm like, I grab a broom and I just sweep up the stairs as I go up them, you know, to the side. It's just like one of those things that, like, why not clean up? Because the next guys that come in tomorrow will either respect it or follow the lead that's already there. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a different point, but it's just from a builder's standpoint, we have responsibility ourselves to kind of set the tone. Where, yeah, I know the electrician left all his crap around. I'll sweep it up that night. That way tomorrow, they're like, you know what? Someone's actually noticing that this is left out. Yeah. You know, I don't need to text you and say I'm going to back charge you some BS that way. It's like, no, you're making work for me, and I'm creating work for you by giving you this stuff. Why don't you take care of me? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't have to be said. I guess maybe I play that game. I don't know if it actually gets received, but I think it does.
It's funny. My job yesterday, I had the HVAC guys today hooking everything up. So before I left yesterday, I took all of my tools and I packed them into a closet and put like the few things that couldn't fit in there strategically placed around the room. So you walk in and it's anything that you leave is going to look out of place. So you basically have no choice but to clean up.
I think that's so underrated. like a clean, organized workspace. Like there's nothing worse than trying to work. I mean, you can imagine doing trim work with trim laying all over the ground and your your air hose is intertwangled in it and on the other side. Like that's a nightmare. It's the same for like tile scraps and the best is the tile saw. It ends up becoming a teepee of all of the scraps, right? And there's like water and dust and it's just so much nicer to have a clean. I find it cathartic, like to go through. Sometimes I'll make a disaster. I'm not gonna lie. There's moments when I'm a complete mess, but I find it cathartic to clean that up and detail it. And then you step back and you're like, yeah, it feels nice to leave the site fresh and sharp.
I can't focus.
Yeah, I think especially with tile work that if you're able to keep your work site clean and your tools clean and your install clean, it goes so well. And but as soon as it's either like you're tight on time or something didn't go well and you're trying to make up time for it, and then you start putting tools where you don't want them, and then you step in them and they're on your shoe, and then it's on your hands, and then you're inevitably wiping it on your shirt. I feel like tile work, it's almost one of those things where like if you just slow down and keep everything clean and nice, you're actually going to speed up your install at the end of the day.
What I mean? Guys ask me, they're like, how do you stay clean? I don't have time for that. I'm like, I don't have time to be dirty. I don't have time
way more work.
The front door of thin set on the handle. Like I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So I feel a little controversial asking this, but I want to ask it anyway. So speaking of personas, at least on Instagram, it seems like the tile guys have really big personas. Can we dig into that?
They have no mercy.
Just a little bit.
I think I found you like 4 years ago.
There's some crazy dudes on there, man. And I don't know if I just happen to follow all of them or what.
I do. Before we start, I'm going, Clint, I'm going to have to take off at some point soon before my wife divorces me because she's working from home and homeschooling 2 kids. So if I do just take off, I appreciate you coming on.
No, I appreciate you too. Thank you.
All right, proceed, Nick.
No, I'm waiting for Clint to answer.
It's big personalities for sure. I got caught up for a couple of years on what do people on Instagram think of me? And I wanted to please like everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's tile where it's just so magnified that that's impossible. It seems to be the one trait on Instagram that you're always going to be pissing somebody off. Someone's going to be upset. You're giving secrets away. Your work isn't what it looks like online. You're not, you don't do the work that you talk about, or, that mitering's old, metal edge is better. You shouldn't mud, you should do foam board. Like it's just, there's so many things that no matter really what you do, it comes off. But what I've learned the last 2 years, I think, is that that's about this much of Instagram. And when I stopped worrying about that, I stopped hearing from a lot of those people. I stopped with the group chats and I stopped going in those spaces, and I got a lot healthier mentally and a lot better of a relationship with the people who were following my account for good reasons. So I was found myself caught up in talking to people with 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000 followers and trying to please what they saw as a good installer or what they saw as valuable or what they would do with their account. And I started looking at the people with 100 followers and 50 followers and what do they want to see? What do they want to hear? And I found that to be so much more gratifying for myself. And it actually, I feel like the account helps a lot more people now.
Dude, I'm really glad like that was your answer, because that is something I've noticed, at least with your account, because I've been following you for a while, and I've seen the progression in what you put out, and I don't remember when, but I remember seeing a clear change in like you chose to be the professional in it, and you said, I'm gonna just provide value. I have an opportunity to educate people, whether they're new to this, whether they've been in this trade, whether they want to get in it, whatever the case is. And that's what ultimately why you're on the podcast, is because that's what I appreciate the most. And I asked the question because I feel like so many of these other trades, with I'm gonna like woodworking in general, everything is so educational. Everyone is trying to teach people things or show like new processes, where I felt as though like the tile community from my view was just so combative. It was so many people were trying to prove someone else wrong or say their system's better, and it's like, and it's easy to get caught up in that.
Well, what do you think was also super clicky in the beginning? For tile,
really,
like not a lot of the other realms of construction on social media came out clicky, but tile, man, it was. I mean, I think we all watched it from afar and was just like, "Damn, son!"
It was high school.
Don't hashtag tile anything.
It was
Keep
just
your distance.
I'm like, I'm trying to follow along just so I can learn what's the best practice, like so I can educate my team. And it was like, it
was a fire sale for a while.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that with a lot of trades. I think tile for a long time was pretty bad. I think like finishing, a lot of paint, when you get in the higher end paint, it's kind of like
framing.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of the finished carpentry where there is a lot of that too. I think tile just went super public.
Yeah, they went hard. They went hard in the paint.
There's no hiding it.
No.
Well, and I have to credit, I'm happy that happened, because it made me step back from being so adamant about certain processes. So instead of me coming out and saying, this is how you're supposed to miter, it turned into me kind of stepping away from being that way, and more of the mindset of, I want to spark people to make up their own mind. I want to help encourage the beginning of a conversation, but not finish it for them. So, hey guys, like when I fabricate, these are the pads I use, and sometimes, and I happen to be mitering, and this is how I do it. Do it whatever way you want. And I accredit that to that negative connotation to everything, where it was just everyone wanted to be the first one to miter. I've got a miter tray that's like 30 years old. Like, we were mitering a long time ago. None of us invented any of these things. So for anyone to take credit, and to be someone is like, we're all, none of us are like any close to the age of the people that we learned from. And we all look at them like they're super well educated. It's almost like we're kind of taking their information and selling it. And it's almost like it's not right.
It's a cut and paste.
Yeah, it was like, I heard this online, so I'm going to talk about it, or I read this somewhere, so I'm going to talk about it. It just became very media driven.
But it was also very emotional, I feel like, and not so much educational. And I trust me, I get caught up in it where it's like, you'll read that one comment and I'll read it and put my phone away, and then I'll be like, oh man, I would stew with it, even though it's someone with zero, not forget the follower count, could care less about it. It's the content that they have. Yeah. I'll jump on their site and be like, hey, are you building some amazing stuff? Like, do I need to respect this comment? And I don't know why I do this. I don't get it at all. But yet it will be this thing where you're like I'm not going to lie to you, a couple weeks ago, Tyler knows about it, wish he was still on, but someone hit me up and was like, hey, you don't have any right talking about craftsmanship since you don't wear a tool belt anymore. You don't have a fight. Shouldn't be in the fight at all. Yeah. And I was like, I ended up getting this guy posted something about me, blah, blah, got back to me. And I ended up jumping on the phone with the guy in that weekend. And I was like, why am I spending time on people like this?
Yeah.
But B, it's like, at the other side of me is like, I want to know this guy's opinion on what's going on, because am I so short-sighted and not seeing something that I should be?
What was your takeaway from that phone call?
It's tough because this mic's on.
Just in short, did you feel as though you hung up saying he's got a point?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what every time this happens, and this happens more than once, is they want attention from you, meaning they want you to. I mean, we get a lot of DMs, and I'm not bragging about it. We get a lot of, and you can't get to all of them. So it's like at some point, people want your attention and they want your focus, and this is how they do it. And I'm like, I shouldn't feed it that way. Like, there's a lot of people I DM all the day, and I get phone calls from people, and I talk to them every week that are struggling through certain parts of their business, or, how do they deal with this, or do I take this deal? What do I do? Do I change my career? Do I do this? And it's like, I'm not saying I have the right answer, but I'm going to tell you how I feel about it, because I've been through a lot of it. But like at the end of the day, that was a 2-hour conversation that someone needed to talk to somebody. That was it. There was nothing about taking jabs at me, craftsmanship, and all that stuff where it started. It was the nuts and bolts of it was, I want to talk to somebody else that's in the field.
Yeah.
That's what my takeaway was. And I was like, I'm happy to do that. It just needs to be on a different starter.
Right. Clint, really appreciate you coming on tonight, man. I'm glad we got the Wi-Fi all figured out.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy you guys asked me. I've been wanting to jump into the podcast world, and this was a really good way to do it. And it was a pleasure to be with you guys.
It's super fun, man. I mean, I hope you get a lot of feedback, which I'm sure you will.
With the 5 people that listen.
Yeah, I think we're up to 6.
Maybe 7 on a good day.
Well, it's COVID, so no one's listening to podcasts this week, apparently.
Everybody is.
We did have a good week last week. No, but seriously, I think, being able to, give you a platform. We're not giving you a platform, but I mean, just social media and podcasts in general is to give the platform to help inspire and educate. And like you said earlier, is to really be an advocate for your industry. And, just my opinion, I think you're doing a really good job at it. And, I'm excited to see how that it progresses. And, with the new changes and, in the business and from last year to this year, I think you'll be able to hunker down and really find that, spot in your company that you find the most value in, and be able to allow that company to grow real organically.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And that's the number one goal for me at this point, is to just make sure that we do the trade justice and people are happy about, paying attention to what we do, and not so negatively driven.
Yeah.
100%.
It's crazy. A long time ago, I stopped, probably when you made that switch. I couldn't figure out how you found the time to do the videos you do. Like, Nick, I get it. You hired somebody, you have a guy that does videos, but like, you would be able to edit stuff that, like, regardless of the tile, the enviness of how that is executed and the size and scale that you do, but like, to have the ability to pull back enough to have a plan for what you're going to do for large scale tile and setting and cutting and all that, to be able to set up cameras at the right angle, make sure the batteries are full, and you have memory and all this stuff, and then to be able to pull it all the way. Like, what is it? Just passion that drove that part of it, or there was a tile company. I wish Tyler was still on. There's a tile company in Reno called Radkey Tile and Marble, and their slogan was simply the best. And that just stuck with me forever, because it comes off so casually. It's not arrogant or self-righteous, in my opinion. I think that's a really cool slogan. And I wanted people to feel that way when they saw the videos, when they saw what we do every day. I wanted that passion to come through, and I wanted people to think like, these guys are top notch. And to Nick's point, like, it's amazing. It's an amazing challenge to be under a microscope and succeed in a doing something that you haven't been doing for 20 years. We were doing stuff, with that tile that was pretty outrageously new, and it was fun. It was fun and exciting
to really begin that whole march with these size tiles. And now a lot of people are doing. We've trained a couple of guys that are on Instagram now, and they're posting a lot of videos of the slab work and stuff. And
I mean, I picked your brain about the slab work. You know,
Yeah.
you've been eager to, you know, talk about it and walk me through it, and you know, we've even talked about working together. But it's like, I think that's super. You know, it's just knowing that you're there to provide value, you know, for anyone, because this is what you love to do and you want to be, you know, an advocate for your industry. That's just huge.
I want to share it. I honestly want to share anything. If I learned something new today, I want to talk about it and I want to share it with other people.
To John's point about the video, it reminded me of, I think you posted a video of you dropping a large format slab into leveling clips against another tile. I'm pretty sure that video, I sent it to every single person I knew, and I was like, "You guys have to watch this. You're gonna shit yourself when you see that tile drop."
I wish you put on that caption. Did you hold your breath?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone watched that and was like,
yeah, I definitely almost shit myself.
Clint, so your website is kingtile.ca, but on Instagram it's @tile.freak. So real quick, what's Tile Freak?
So Tile Freak is just a way for us to grow the presence of the brand, the industry, of having a good name to it. And then, yeah, it's an outlet, one of a billion outlets that allows people to come in and just ask questions and share information. Most conversations I'll leave asking questions to whoever I'm talking to. I don't care if they're 18 years old. Because I also have a thirst for knowledge and information. Like I want to talk to people and it to be a two-way street. I don't want it to just be, you know, ask me anything, I'll answer your question, and then I'll blow it off.
Right.
So I think that's what the Tile Freak page is for. We also have some tools and some things that we've tested that we like the core blades that we sell on the site, and stuff. And then King Tile Canada is the business of installation of tile. So.
It's funny you don't cross pollinate.
No.
Is that the right word?
Yeah, I try to keep
brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to keep the King Tile brand exclusively directed towards homeowners, clients. It's a profile that I don't want to clutter up with information that a client, you know, wouldn't care about.
You know what's funny? I've always wanted to, like, you don't have your name. It's the company itself. I find that, like, when I want to talk to somebody, I want to be able to use their name. Like, if it says Tile King, like, Clint should be on there, so that way I know I'm talking to Clint.
Yeah.
You know, I always wonder about that, because I always wonder, should I take my name off Vintage Builders with Benny? It's like Vintage Builders and Company. So if someone knows they're going to call the company, they get one of us. They know our name. You know, so it's just kind of funny that there's not a picture of you. I think it's just your hat backwards anywhere on your profile.
It's you know, Tile Freak, I wanted other people to be able to wear the brand and not feel like they're wearing someone else's company. So a lot of the swag exchange became, and it's probably because of the tile industry the way it was at that time, was about someone else supporting you and your company. And I wanted to get like sweatshirts and hats and stuff out that anybody could wear, and they'd be like, yeah, I love tile. And it's not about they're supporting Clint. Yeah. They're someone who loves their trade and they've got passion towards it.
That's awesome, man.
Very cool, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate the time.
Stay safe, stay healthy up there, and good luck with everything, and we'll stay in touch.
Will do. You guys as well. Peace.
See you, dude.
Love,
Peace.
Happiness.
We got a review this week.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
It's all right. I got it pulled up.
Okay, what is it? What star?
Well, last week you missed it because we had 3-star.
So, we did. What was it? Sorry, I'll have to listen to it.
It's all right. We can read it again. What's higher, the number of words Tyler says in it, episode or the number of times he clears his throat into the microphone.
Oh,
And that was
that was a review.
that was in a reference to before we got these new mics. So if you guys haven't noticed, our audio is far better. But we got one from Hootie Fish. I listen to podcasts and books daily since I work alone as a general contractor and a finish carpenter. You inspired an old guy to go out on his own again after letting go in 2009. It's great to hear the excitement of skilled tradesmen who love what they do and want everyone to up their game. It gives me hope for the future of construction. Please continue to bring people stories from all skill levels. We learn from the young and the old alike. Thanks for upping my game, David Kellogg. David,
That's a good
email
one.
us, info@themoderncraftsman.org. I want to hear your story. Maybe we'll have you on.
Yeah, or we'll just get you a hat.
Or a hat. I mean, I was going all out. John's giving you the hat.
I just want to come up with a close second place. Okay.
We appreciate you guys listening. You know where to find us. We will see you next week. Oh, wait. Next week, Steve Basic.
The legend. He's got his own podcast.
He does. We'll talk about it next week. But I also see him stirring some stuff up on that BS and beer building science. They got this big competition going on, best 16-inch wall construction. So we'll dig into that.
I don't know if size matters.
I don't know. Peace.